Okay, Matt, Andrew, this is Jeff Gamble, Indianapolis, Indiana, and I wanted to go over. I know we were talking earlier that I had basically screwed up my own credit due to real estate, buying a bunch of properties prior to 2007 and 8. My wife and I split up. A builder that I was working with decided to stop paying commissions. They were actually going under. And then, of course, the economy completely fell apart. So I found myself somewhere to the tune of a little over $3 million in debt. Eventually ended up in front of an attorney. The attorney said, look, you got three choices. Choice number one is you fly somewhere we can't find you. Choice number two is win the lottery a couple times. Choice number three is file bankruptcy. Of course, that's what I ended up having to do. After I filed, I actually waited until the discharge date. Once I got my discharge, I called a friend of mine, Brian, who's a mortgage broker, and I said, hey, pull my credit, I need a tri-merge. And I had read the Fair Credit Reporting Act, I had read Life After Bankruptcy, and I read Credit for Repair for Dummies. And I went through a process of putting my credit back together. It was 6 steps that I did. Step number 1 is I got a tri-merge. Step number 2 is I did an evaluation of my report. I wrote down everything that was good. There was nothing on my report that was good. Like, my name was probably the only thing that was accurate on that. My address had changed. Everything else had changed. Then I wrote down everything that was bad, incorrect, or needed to be removed, and I made lists of everything. And then the last category is I wrote, okay, what do I need to add? That was step 2. Step 3 is something called optoutprescreen.com. Optoutprescreen.com, the 3 credit bureaus actually sell all of our information to third-party companies, and that's how we get junk mail. A couple things happen. When you opt out of that system, the 3 credit bureaus know if you're in their system or not, of course. And that's a risk factor. So what we found is, number 1 is you get less junk mail, which is awesome. Number 2 is it will actually help raise or increase your credit score, which is always a nice thing. Step 4 is establishing credit. Now, what some people don't realize is after you file bankruptcy, there are certain institutions that will start soliciting you. And if you sign up for their card versus a company that doesn't solicit to you, your credit score can actually it won't go up quite as fast. So what I did is I looked for the companies that solicited right after bankruptcy, and I went with companies that didn't solicit you right after bankruptcy, because obviously if they're soliciting you, they have a higher default rate to begin with, because they're dealing with credit challenged people right off the bat. So your credit score doesn't go up as fast. You can get the same amount at the same interest rate, and it just won't increase. Payment's the same, everything. It just won't increase quite as fast. So I made a list of where to go to get credit reestablished. Step 5 was something called the disputing process. This is what most people consider credit repair. So what I went through is I wrote all the letters to each one of the credit bureaus. I wrote, the account number, the name, and then why I wanted to dispute it. Whether the information was inaccurate, incorrect, it was included in bankruptcy, it shouldn't have been on there at all, it was a duplicate account, for instance, those reasons, and I sent out the letters. I had approximately 40 items on each report that I needed to do this with, so it was a lot of writing. The way the law works is 5 days. If you send a letter to the credit bureau, the credit bureau has 5 days to contact the creditor. The creditor has 30 days to respond back. If it doesn't respond back at all, by law, it has to come off. If it does respond back, it will obviously update to whatever they respond back at. Or what I found is nothing happens at all, meaning it just electronically fires back out the same information, and it doesn't update, it doesn't change, it just fires back the exact same information again, which happens about a third of the time too. So at that point, you have to obviously either attack it from a different angle or do it again. Hey, this was supposed to be off, removed, whatever. You didn't do it. So I at least give it two shots. At that point, the third round, I moved to step 6, which is payment plans, settlements, negotiations, or threatening to sue the creditor for not doing what they're supposed to do. I had some really good friends who were attorneys, so that's how I got that done. Now, where Andrew and I connected is years ago when I was doing this, a friend of mine called me and said, hey, have you ever heard of the company called Prepaid Legal? A lot of people have heard of Prepaid Legal. I knew of them as a direct sales company. That's all I really knew. And I knew, obviously, they had attorneys because Prepaid Legal, that just makes sense. So I said, bring me the info. Eventually, he sat down and got me in front of some other people, and they basically ran through the program with me. And just to kind of give you a brief synopsis, the company itself had been created in the 70s. The owner got into a car accident, was wrongfully sued out of the accident. The accident wasn't his fault. The lady who hit him had money, hired an attorney. The attorney found out he had speeding tickets. The attorney advised her to go to court, sue him, probably get out of the accident. They go to court. She has an attorney. He doesn't. She sues. He loses, and it bankrupts him. So he's mad because he's like, look, I had car insurance. I had, hospital, or I had medical insurance. Let's pay for the hospital stay. I had house insurance, in case the house burned down. I had life insurance in case I died. Where was the protection on the legal side? So he researched it in the late 60s, couldn't find it in the 70s. He did find legal insurance, but it existed in Europe. So he kind of modified that process, or what they were doing, brought it back to the United States, and started the company in 1972. From 1972 to the mid-90s, he basically went throughout the country and built a nationwide network of attorneys. That nationwide network of attorneys now is basically a law firm sitting in almost every state in the United States and in Canada. And it encompasses over 900 attorneys. So it's the largest private network that's out there. Now, what that covers is his basic plan. It covers 7 areas. I just want to run through them real quick. Number 1, it covers preventative law. So this is where you can pick up the phone, call in on an unlimited number of issues that you're having. At the same time, get an attorney specific for whatever you're going through, and it doesn't cost you an hourly rate. It's part of the membership. Unlimited calls, unlimited consultation. The second thing they do under preventative is they'll write letters and make phone calls on your behalf. Well, writing letters on your behalf, that's where I was using them for my Step 6 payment plan settlements negotiations. They'll also review contracts and documents, so before you sign anything, the attorneys will look it over. They'll also do your last will and testament, your living will, and your healthcare directive, all as part of the membership. So that's the preventative side. The second part has nothing to do, obviously, with real estate, but they do cover minor traffic violations. You can snap a picture of a ticket, speeding ticket, send it to them, and they'll fight it in traffic court. Doesn't mean you're going to get out of it. Their goal is to keep points off your license, keep your insurance rates good. Third is trial defense. The fourth area is IRS audit, in case you're audited, 50 hours of tax attorney. The fifth area is a 25% discount off of their hourly rate. This is if it's criminal or if something else is obviously truly wrong going on that you're going to need an attorney ongoing. You're actually having to hire them. It's a 25% discount off their hourly rate. Step 6, or the sixth thing that they cover, is contingencies. So contingencies, I'm sorry, just after lunch, kind of brain dead. But after 90 days, if it's a divorce, custody, adoption, and name change, if it's non-contested, that's the word that I was looking for. If it's non-contested, agreed upon, they'll do all the paperwork. The seventh thing they give you, everybody's heard the phrase, you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to an attorney. What they do is actually they put an attorney in each one of the law firms on retainer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with a cell phone. So you actually have an app, and if you pull this app up, let me see, where is it? It's got a little button at the bottom that says, you probably can't even see it because of the light, but it says emergency. And you can barely see it. Emergency service. So if you touch that, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in case you're arrested, detained in an accident, CPS shows up at your house, blah, blah, blah. That program covers husband, wife, kids up to the age of 18, anybody physically dependent in a house, blah, 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 blah. Any kids that are in school full-time. It's $24.95 a month. So for under $25. $25 is what I usually tell people. $25. This covers the entire family. That's the legal side, and it covers all 50 states. And right now, 4 provinces of Canada. By the end of the year, it covers everybody. The second thing they do is identity theft protection. And if you're unfamiliar with most identity theft protection, most of it either covers one of two things. It covers Social Security or it covers your bank account, but that's it. There's actually 6 areas. They cover all 6, so including bank accounts and Social Security. They cover medical, they cover tax, they cover character and criminal, and they cover driver's license. In case you get hit by anything, they hire a private investigator, put you back together the way you should be. That program is $9.95 as an individual, or $24.95 to cover everybody in the family up to and including 8 children outside of the husband and wife or significant other. So for $35 for an individual or $50 for a family, you can get both of these programs. Now, where the identity theft fits into credit is there's a direct line to the credit bureau, kind of like a back door. If you call the identity theft company when they first, basically put you in the system, their question is everything on your report accurate? If it's not, we want to, make sure it's accurate right off the bat. So I started calling in when I signed people up for this and just telling the person, I said, here's what we're going to dispute. We're going to say these are the things that are inaccurate. And I found out that they'll do the disputes for us via an internal computer. They're writing the letters for us, so we don't have to write any letters. So the idea is my 6-step system is free. Pull your credit, do an evaluation, go to optoutprescreen.com, establish credit, showing you who to go to, the dispute letters, how to do them, and then payment plan settlements negotiation. That's free. That's 6 steps I give away. It's part of a program called Build Fast Credit Systems. The second piece, which is now called Legal Shield, it was called Prepaid Legal, now it's called Legal Shield. I'm using Legal Shield's program to basically facilitate and make that go faster. For the people who don't want to sit down and write all the letters, for the people who don't want to do their own negotiations, for the people who don't have access to the attorneys to figure all this out, that's what we're giving them access to. So where this kind of ties in together is I shared this with Andrew, and Andrew had a background in direct sales, and I said, would it make sense for us to sell something that right now only 1 million people in the United States, or actually there's 1.7 million people in the United States have this program, but from what I've researched, about 200 million people need it. So that's kind of what I've marketed part-time. In the past, we sold, obviously, a lot of memberships. I mainly worked with real estate agents, mortgage professionals, and investors. And the reason I worked with those 3 types of people is we run into, I'm a realtor, by the way, we run into people who have credit issues. We run into people who have short sales. We run into people who go into foreclosure. I run into investors that are having issues, and I'm able to show them this program and say, look, here's the program to get people back on track, but also you're asking me legal questions about different states and stuff like that. Wouldn't it make sense to have an attorney on hand all the time? Now, what I've said so far is all the personal side of it. There's actually a business side of this too. So for the investors that I deal with, there's a business side of Prepaid Legal or Legal Shield that they can actually purchase as an add-on and or by itself. So if it's home-based, they'd have to do it as an add-on. If it's an independent corporation, LLC, sole proprietor, and it's a physical location, there's several different versions of it that, as long as it's a for-profit company, it's not publicly traded, and they have the ability to, under 99 employees, we can cover that business. And then they get access to the attorneys for their business reasons. They'll actually do debt collection in case the business is sued. You get an attorney to basically go to court for you. So that program, kind of packaged together, I shared it with Andrew, and Andrew's like, yeah, I probably know a lot of people who might be able to use this. So the only thing that we're asking is, basically for the referrals, if you can shoot us in the right direction. Now, the guy that I read about that wrote the book Life After Bankruptcy was basically going state to state and doing these seminars on what to do after bankruptcy to put yourself back together. He actually became a member of Prepaid Legal back in the day and went on to make over $100,000, I think in 4 months. If I remember, 4 or 5 months. It was under 6 months. I just remember it was like real fast. Because you basically get paid about $100 a policy every time you market it. So I don't know if that'd be something fitting for the seminar stuff you're going to do, if that would be a piece of the puzzle. I know you're basically marketing to, I would guess, to real estate agents and to people who want to, be involved in the quote-unquote short sale business. I don't know if it gets all the way down to the consumer, but we wanted to share it with you. Maybe shoot some ideas around. If there's a way to piece it together, great. If there's somebody you can refer us to, obviously you don't know me. Andrew. Andrew's your point of contact, and we appreciate any connections that you could possibly open the door for. So thanks. I'm sorry our schedules are so goofy. Appreciate taking a couple minutes, learn about what we do, and get back with Andrew if you have any questions. Thank you so much.